let's quickly build a calculator. So we're going to build a calculator now. So let's go. So first of all, this calculator, I'm not going to start it with CSS, so I'm just going to build it with JavaScript. So you are going to bring in first of all, um let's just say calculator first. Let's just bring in h1 to say calculator. Then the next thing we are going to bring out again, so let's just use h2 for the inputs. H2 for inputs. Let's put in input because every calculator have input. So you give it an ID. Of input. Then we are going to bring out output. H2 again. Let's say H2. Let's say H2 again. Let it just be results. Yeah, let it just be results as an output. So this input is going to be 0, while the output is going to be 0. So if we see this on live server, if we check it on live server, it's going to be like this. So it's going to be like this. It's going to be like this on the live server. So now what are we going to build next? The button. So we bring in all the button, but we're just going to use button. We're just going to use let's bring in the clear button first. Then we'll bring in the arithmetic button. Let's just bring in all the arithmetic button. So this is the first arithmetic, which is division. Then these are all the arithmetic button. So based on I have been using this to teach my students, so my Codion know everything because of my this thing. So we are bringing the button, which is all the arithmetic button now. So the next thing we are going to be bringing in now is from 1 to, we are going to be bringing in all the button, which is 1. We are just going to use from 1. We are just going to use from 1 to button. I'm going to use button. So we're just going to bring in BNT1. So we're just going to be using 1, which is let's bring in 1. So see, my Codion already bring all of them out from 1 to 0. So if you look at the calculator now, so it look like this. But there's something that is wrong now. This is just an HTML. So we have not bring in, they are not interacting, no interaction yet. If you see, if we press the button now, it's not showing anything. So we have to make them show it. That is when JavaScript now come in. Don't forget that for you to bring in JavaScript in your HTML, you use scripts. This is it here. So let's go back to JavaScript. So on JavaScript, we are going to bring them in first. All the ID, we are going to bring them as document dot query. So where is it? So we are going to bring it in as document dot query first. So we are going to say cons what are we bringing first? Let's just say input. We bring in input. So my AI is already bringing them out. You see, that is perfect. So these are all the button now. So you have already import them from your index.html. So these are all the button. So if you check where we have all the button now, but yet we have all the button now, but yet it is not working. So even though we press it, it's not working. That 2, 3, nothing is coming up because we have not did the JavaScript. So JavaScript add interaction to our web app. So you can see now nothing is working. For that to work, if you look at the JavaScript, I've already bring in all the buttons. So all these buttons, I've already import them on JavaScript. So the next thing we are going to do now is to create an empty array. So let's create an empty array. So we create an empty array. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to create a function that will be pushing this one to this result, to this input, then before we move forward. So what is the next thing? We create a function. So the function is going to be, should we say add to input? Let's just say display let's say display to input. So we are create a function now to display all the value that we are going to be clicking here to the function, to the input, sorry. Then the next thing now is then we create what is the next thing? Sorry. So now that we have created the function to display, then we push all the value to the empty array. So what we are going to do is we push all the value to the empty array. So that's why we're going to bring the empty array back here. We push all the value to the empty array. So let's say we push let's say push value to empty array. Then the next thing we have to do is to convert everything in the empty array to string. So we are going to be using join as an JavaScript method. So the next thing is to convert to empty array. So we are going to be converting every input that we put in the empty array. We're going to be converting it to string. So we are going to be using join. So that's where we are going to use cons. We are going to say cons. Convert. Let's just use converted string to empty array. So our code is coming out one after the other. But if you still check now, it's not still working. So the next thing we are going to do now is to display anything that we converted in the input. So for we to display it, we now say input dot what? We now say input dot tense content. So we assign everything we converted to the inputs. So in this place you can use inner HTML, whatever that you want to use. So now we are able to create a function that can push all our button to the input, and that can also convert them to to that can also convert them to string, and that can also push them to the inputs. What is the next thing? The next thing is that we're going to bring in DOM. So we are bringing in DOM content loaded. So if you still check now, if you check, our button is not still working. So now, upon all we have used push, it's not still working because there is nothing that track the event. So we have to bring in an event listener that listens to when you click before this function can run. So what do we do next? So we bring in document.event listener. Is that what we're supposed to do? Yeah, this is what we're supposed to do. So this place we bring in DOM first. We said we bring in DOM content loaded. So this will be an anonymous function. Then we close this function. Yeah. So we bring it. This is where we are going to be putting all the event listener, so that DOM content can load them. So the first thing we are going to bring is, let's bring in button 1. Let's say button 1. My this thing is even bringing that out, so let us not waste time on it. So now we have button 1. So button 1 is already in here. So that is just it. So we have button 1 already. So from now we have from button 1 to 7. So let's look at it now if it's working. You can see it's working now. It's pushing them because there's something that is listening to the event now. So let me just explain what happened here. You bring it button 1. So when you click this button 1, on click, this function run. So what is the function? The function that display the input here. This function that we created run. So it push them and convert them to string. Then after converting to string, it display them on the inner HTML. That is what is going on here. So with this now, all our buttons are pushing. Then what is next? The next thing now is the function that calculates. So we have to create function that calculates whatever that we push in the array. So that is why we are going to be saying function that function calculates. So this is function calculate now. So for now, let's close it. So this is a method, right? So we are going to be using this function to calculate everything that come up there. So first of all, we are still going to bring in the converted string. So this is just it. So if you bring in the converted string, this is still going to be converting it. Then this is a method. This is a method that calculates. Don't forget. This evaluates the string. So we use eval to evaluate everything that is inside a string. This is what we use to evaluate it. So we use this thing to calculate anything in the string. So what you have to know here, this is a default keyword in JavaScript that calculates anything all the arithmetics, evaluate anything in a string. So if we check this now, after you calculate, we are still going to bring in result in the in the this thing. But what we are going to be doing here now is that we already have results here, right? So if you check this is the result. So after it calculates it, it's going to print it out or display it in this result. So let's go. So what do we do next? Now we are going to bring the button for button 8. Let's just use my Codion to bring on the button in. I think we should just bring add button add. Is it add? Sorry. So bring in the add button. Okay, so we are bringing all the add button, all the arithmetics button are already here. So the next thing you are going to learn is this calculate button. So now in the equals to, we are going to be calling this calculate function. So we are now calling this calculate function in the equals to. So but on the normal button click, we call this function, but on the equals to, we call the function for calculate. That is why we call this function here. That is why I call this function here. So if you click 212 plus 2 now, you are going to press equals to, so you get 14. So it's working perfectly now. But if you click this, where is the cancel, it's not cancelling because we have not created the function. So the next function we are going to bring is function to cancel. So to bring the function to cancel, we are going to bring the empty array first, then we pop. Don't forget the method to pop out the last index of the empty array. So we say empty array, it's supposed to be empty array dot pop. So as function, yeah. So you bring out the empty array dot pop, you convert the rest, and you display in the what it's supposed to be in the input display. So by that, if you check the code now, if you press 1, 2, 3, if you press C, click C to clear it. So that is where we are going to stop today. Thank you so much. Follow me for more video like this as we learn together. Bye.